Thank you all for being here and celebrating with us the launch of our new book, Luxury Wine Marketing. Given this is a highly consumer-oriented crowd versus wine professional crowd, I asked my friend Robert, who spans both the tech business world as well as the wine world, to give a couple thoughts on how this book is applicable both for wine consumers as well as wine professionals. And then we'll give a couple thank yous and enjoy the rest of this night.
Hi everybody, Robert Vernick. I am a wine blogger, wine influencer, or what I like to call just a person who drinks a lot of wine and gets to write about it. And in this day and age, that means a lot of people decide to latch on to want to hear what I have to say, which is interesting. So I'm a wine geek, so I work in tech, but I've been studying wine and tasting wine for probably about 20 years now. Yeah, about that. I've always, when I got into wine, it was about, looked into a group. I was living out of the country, and I looked into a group of Europeans who were tasting a lot of wine, and they were tasting it blind. So once a month, we get together and go wine tasting. And the goal was, you have to guess the varietal, the region, vintage, and all that stuff. And they were tasting a lot of old wine, and one of the things I loved was, I got into, my first wines that I got into were really like aged Bordeaux's and aged Burgundies, and things like that, and like sometimes they were crazy. Like so, like I've had some very generous friends over the years.
That's a way to start, buddy.
Yeah. So one of my most memorable moments was there was a Madeira that was poured for us, so we all kind of figured out it was a Madeira, and we're like, okay, like we think we know what it is, but we have no idea how old it is, and we're guessing, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna give you a clue. This is the age that contact lenses were invented.
Wow.
We're like, I don't know that that helps anybody here. That's like before Wikipedia was really popular. So it's around 1860s, and so I was like, wow, that is really impressive that that wine had such life and tenacity. And since then, I've always been passionate about aged wines, and that when it gets to that pinnacle, and most people, when they're buying wines, they're not thinking about how does this age. What I love about the book, and I had a chance to read through it, not all of it, but most of it, and I really like that they drove into a perspective of like a framework for people to think about what is luxury wine. And we all live, or many of us live close to Napa, and everybody and their brother has a $100 bottle of wine. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a luxury wine, or even a fine wine in some cases. Sometimes it's just the cost of the land. And what I like is the structure that they provided, like a framework for thinking like, hey, this is a wine that's a sense of place. This is a wine that's has a pedigree for a really long time. This is a wine at a certain price, and there's scarcity to it. It's it's consistent, and it gives a sense of status. These are the things that I think of.
A plus.
A plus. If I read it, I usually try to remember. So I think it's an interesting framework because as a person who likes, as a geek, as a collector, people often throw in that term cult wine. Like I know the people who are just like, I want to drink these like natural wines, they're hip and trendy and fads. And not to say that natural wines are fads, but it's always interesting to come back to these things that are pedigrees proven year after year to be really interesting. And really buy these wines, put them in your cellar, and enjoy them at peak. And really come back to them. And I really enjoyed the list that they had provided, where they talked about like here's like the known like players that are across the world. And there was I knew all those names, and there was like, and here's the emerging. I was reading that. It's like, wait, oh man, I'm like texting Peter, like, where is this person? Where is this? Like, keep reading. And then we go down and look at, and I was like, oh, okay, there's all these other people I mentioned, these emerging luxury wine players, and I largely agreed with the list. Obviously, I'm sure there's an ever-evolving list, but and then I was messaging. I was like, well, how does Dom Perignon fit into your like paradigm? Because there's like a lot of bottles of Dom P out there. And then he was like, keep reading. And so I really think it's an interesting framework to understand where wines are at, and I think there's a huge quality level in terms of that $20 to $100 range. But then understanding when you're going over that price point, like why is it there, and am I buying it? Am I going to enjoy it at peak? And as a collector, as an enjoyer, like understanding a wine that's going to deliver for you, not someone who just got a score for the here and now and the future, and someone who thinks they have a crystal ball and can tell you where it's at, but actually knowing that this winery has a pedigree. And pedigree matters. And this is I thought it was an interesting framework for how to think about it as a consumer. And so I think it's super valuable for the trade, but also really interesting for anybody who's really serious about collecting wine and getting to that pinnacle experience of something that's cellared. So
Thank you.
All right.
We already bought the books. I'd give it back.
Thank you, Robert. First, I want to thank everyone here because without you guys, we wouldn't have this amazing event happen and these fantastic wines that we get the pleasure to try and enjoy, most of which are on our list of luxury wines and emerging luxury wineries. And of course, a special thanks to Liz for the collaboration of this book. She pushed me hard in a lot of the chapters that I wrote, and I was like, you're missing this, you're missing this. That was extremely valuable because it ended up being as good as it is because of that. I hope you guys enjoy it. And you know, we've already started to get a little bit of positive feedback from the people who have read it. A CEO of a medium-sized wine conglomerate bought a book off Amazon, not from us, and thought it was getting so much interest and so many new ideas in his head, he bought 10 books from us to give to the rest of his team. So that's great validation that we didn't write a book that had nothing to say in it. And then we're fortunate to have Champagne Louis Roederer and their American arm Roederer Estate sponsor the sparkling wine for this this event. To me, the L'Hermitage Rosé is one of the best sparkling wines in America.
I concur.
If
Yeah.
even,
Yeah.
it's
Quality
probably
of
the
wine.
best
Yeah.
sparkling wine in the U.S. So, cheers to that for that.
What is
Later,
that retail for Palmer?
75. And later, thank you also to Palmer, who brought some amazing wines from Tokalong Vineyard, and also Penfolds and who have one of the best wine of Australia.
Cheerio.
At least tonight, the best Australian wines.
Shrimps on the
Exactly. Penfolds Grange. So thank you all for that.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you for being here. It's so kind of you to come and celebrate with us. It's been about 4 years of research and work to write this book. And you know, I didn't know Peter 4 years ago. He knocked on my door. He sent me an email and came to Snow State and said, have you done any research on luxury wine market? And I'm like, no, we just focus on the general consumer market. And he's like, well, it's like, we're like getting all these requests and it's big and it's booming. And he wasn't the only one. I had other companies coming as well. And he was like, let's write a book. And I'm like, I'm too busy. I've written about 8 other books too. And so he's like, no, let's do this. And so finally I just thought, you know what? This is exciting. This is happening. This is a good thing. And he's brilliant to work with. You guys know him. And I feel honored to be amongst all of his friends. I have my husband over here I'd like to point out. Supported me. And then Palmer was one of my wine MBA students, and he's definitely moving into the emerging luxury with, I mean, top quality Beckstoffer Tokalong wines. I hope you get a chance to try his wines. And so it's been a great journey. I mean, Peter and I have become friends over it. We've learned a lot about each other. We've been writing back and forth. I pushed him, he pushed me on certain things. And I think that what we ended up with, and we have a great publisher too at Oxford, England, who actually also helped a lot with editing and pushing and changing and everything. So
Infinite ideas.
yeah, and so I'm feeling really comfortable with what we've come up with. And we're really, our hope and our prayer is that this is helpful to wineries around the world who want to move into the luxury wine space and learn how to do this and to bring pleasure to people around the world as well. So we thank you for being here, and we're hoping to hear also from from Grange and from Palmer a little bit about what you've done as well. So, but first of all, let me just say cheers. Thank you for being here.
Cheers.
Okay, so who wants to go first? Napa or Australia? Who's going to go first?
Shrimps on the bottom.
Well, I want to say that I'm excited to read this book. I think it was definitely needed. I remember I I actually started this Judge Palmer project when I was Liz's MBA student, and I remember having a conversation, not with Liz, but one of the other wine business professors at Sonoma State, after he had given this big talk about pricing wines.
Steve Quayler.
Yes. And I said, good talk, Steve, but what your framework has absolutely no relevance to the luxury wine market at all. And he wasn't hearing it, so I'm really glad that you have this book, and I hope he reads it.
Send him a copy, send him a copy.
Yes.
Yeah, so my business partner Michael and I started this project in 2011. Judge Palmer's named after my grandfather, who was a judge up in El Dorado County. We have a little winery in Healdsburg, Dry Creek Valley, and we do a really wide variety of different wines. Judge Palmer's our Cabernet-focused brand, and then Domenica Amato is Rhone varieties and Italian varietals. I brought our Fiano here from that Domenica brand that's over there. And yeah, we were lucky enough, my partner Michael had a good relationship with the Beckstoffers from when he did some consulting for Fred Schrader, and when he worked as the winemaker at Adobe Road. So we've been working with these Beckstoffer vineyards since our first vintage in 2011. We made a few years of wine from the George's Third vineyard, and what you have here is our 2014, which is the fourth and final vintage we made from that vineyard, because in 2015 Andy offered us a little bit of fruit in Tokelon vineyard. We couldn't afford to do both. Really expensive fruit. We decided Tokelon made a lot more sense for us long term, not only for the marketing advantage of that name, but the vineyard I think just has additional layers of complexity and depth. Now you might taste these two wines side by side tonight and say, wow, that George's Third is awesome. I think I like it more, and I think you may be right at this time in their life, but you were talking one of your parts of your framework being ageability. I think the Tokelon over time is definitely the more ageable wine. So hope you enjoy them both, and thanks for tasting them. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Okay, Australia.
Thank you. My name is Ed, and it's a pleasure to be here. And thanks, Peter and Liz, for the invitation to be here. And hopefully, you have a chance to try Grange, one of the more iconic wines of Australia. And I couldn't be pleased that there's the best Napa wines here tonight, the best Australian wines here.
Best in Italy, too.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Oh, yeah, we opened the Ormaya.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but Grange.
Well, he's on the spot.
Grange is the #1 wine of Australia. It's the wine Mike and I have on our anniversary.
And it's also a wine that, because the winemaking philosophy is drastically different from a lot of your Grand Cru out there, we're able to make wine since 1951, the very first vintage, which goes on auction for $80,000+ a bottle. When it first came out, Max Schubert, our chief winemaker, was literally giving away to, his wine to his friends for $1, $1, $2, or something for free. And now 2,000 bottles of these wines were ever made, and I think maybe less than 20 bottles of these wines are still available. So if you have a bottle at home, I'm sure Peter and Liz and I will be happy to join you on the opening ceremony. Which I allude to, we're actually just finishing up our reporting clinic, and it's been mentioned in the books. One of the things that Penfolds does for our Penfolds collectors, you don't have to be just a collector of grains. You can be collectors of any red wines that Penfolds make. You're welcome to attend our reporting clinic. The next one's coming out actually next coming Tuesday, the 29th in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles. So if you want to go, let me know. I'd be happy to squeeze you in for that memorable experience. We opened over 135,000 bottles of Penfolds red wine to certify them, to make sure that we value them at the stage of their life, that they're good to drink maybe on the spot, or maybe they're worthy of aging for 5, 10, perhaps 30 more years of its life. So Peter Gagel, our chief winemaker, will be conducting the seminar himself, and he's been making wines longer than most of us been alive for over 30 years. And his hallmark of Grange Penfolds style is by blending multiple regions of Australian wines together.
We love you for that.
So he's able to blend together parts of Australia as far apart as Washington State and Central Coast, that far of a distance together, so that way unfortunately, we're dealing with climate changes, and certain vintage doesn't always perform its very best. So by blending multiple regions, we're able to produce wines of consistent Grange quality level every single year. Of course, the availability, the quantity fluctuates dramatically because of the vintage, but we're very proud that we have close to 70 years of Penfolds Grange making tradition. That really is considered one of the, and it is the most collected wine in Australia at this point right now. So
Thank
if
you.
you are looking to do events with Penfolds, let us know. We'll be happy to add something unique to your cellar, perhaps.
And we feature Grange a lot in the
Yes.
book. There's some
Pen-
great
Penfolds
stuff.
in general.
Penfolds in general, yes. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Speaking of the book, don't forget your copy. We have them here, we'll sign and personalize them now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So if you guys want us to write your name and all that, just come on up.
Yes,
please.
So can we ask questions? Like, can you tell, I mean, like, most people in here haven't written a book, so can you tell us a little bit about the process of writing a book? Like, what trials and tribulations you go through? And then, it's difficult to,
We're listening, they're drinking,
we're listening. And then what's it like, you said you've written a bunch of books before. What's it like working with a co-author versus yourself?
2014. It's a pretty.
It's nice having a co-author because somebody does half the work, right?
Was it half? Was it exactly
We
half?
can be lazy.
He's not lazy.
Almost everything.